You actually came?" Vanessa laughed when she saw the man near the ballroom entrance. "I thought you'd have more sense than to show up looking like that." Adrian glanced at his plain charcoal jacket, then back at the woman who had once promised to grow old beside him. Vanessa looked him over with open amusement. She believed he was still the man she had left 8 years earlier. She had no idea that the person everyone in the ballroom would soon be thanking was standing only a few steps away. Before we continue, stay with this story. Adrian didn't return to prove Vanessa wrong. He returned for a reason even he didn't fully understand. 8 years earlier, Adrian had been an engineer with a failed startup, mounting bills, and a marriage that was collapsing. He and Vanessa had started with almost nothing. Their furniture was second-hand, and they celebrated every small success. But when Adrian's company failed, everything changed. He lost his job soon afterward. He began repairing computers at night and taking freelance work during the day. Some nights he came home too exhausted to take off his shoes. Vanessa tried to be patient. Then, patience became frustration. After Adrian admitted he couldn't cover another month's rent, Vanessa quietly told him she couldn't keep living that way. She didn't scream. She simply stopped believing their future would improve. The divorce followed. Adrian didn't hate her for wanting security. What hurt was watching people treat his failure as if it were his identity. Friends disappeared. Former colleagues stopped returning calls. For months, Adrian wondered whether everyone had been right about him. Then, while repairing a computer at a small medical clinic, he noticed a problem. Workers wasted valuable time searching for emergency supplies. He couldn't stop thinking about it. He began studying how hospitals managed equipment and resources. He filled cheap notebooks with diagrams and worked before sunrise and long after midnight. There was one embarrassing habit he never told anyone about. For almost a year, he practiced investor presentations by speaking to an empty kitchen chair because he was terrified of failing in front of another person. Eventually, one clinic agreed to test his software, then another. Within a few years, his small company had expanded across the country. Adrian avoided attention whenever possible. He kept his old car, wore simple clothes, and quietly funded programs that helped struggling engineers rebuild their careers. He never put his name on those donations. When the 20-year reunion invitation arrived, he almost threw it away. He had no desire to show Vanessa what he had become. But then he wondered whether he was still allowing the past to control him. So he went. Adrian stayed near the entrance. Then Vanessa saw him. She walked over, studied his jacket and shoes, and smiled. "You really haven't changed." Adrian remained calm. Vanessa glanced toward the people around her and laughed softly. "I guess some people never recover." For a moment, Adrian remembered the unpaid bills and the night Vanessa had walked away. But he didn't argue. 8 years ago, he would have done anything to prove her wrong. Now, he didn't need to. A few minutes later, the reunion organizer stepped onto the stage. He announced that the evening's venue, a scholarship fund, and a new community project had all been paid for by an anonymous former student. The room applauded. Vanessa smiled and joined them. Then the organizer paused. "The donor asked us not to reveal his name unless he agreed personally." He looked toward Adrian. Vanessa followed his gaze. Her smile disappeared. The organizer slowly raised his hand toward Adrian. "Adrian?" A murmur moved through the ballroom. Vanessa stared at him as if she had suddenly forgotten how to breathe. Adrian stepped forward. He didn't smile. He simply walked to the stage while hundreds of eyes followed him. The organizer explained that Adrian had funded the scholarship program for years, including the new community project being announced that evening. The applause became louder. Vanessa remained completely still. Only minutes earlier, she had laughed at his jacket. Now everyone around her was looking at him with admiration. Adrian thanked everyone briefly and stepped down. Vanessa didn't move. Finally, she walked toward him. Her confidence was gone. When she stopped in front of Adrian, she lowered her voice. "I didn't know." Adrian looked at her quietly. I know. She swallowed hard. I thought you were still struggling. I was. The answer surprised her. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. I was afraid, she admitted. She explained that when his company collapsed, she believed their life was becoming a permanent struggle. She had been terrified of losing everything and convinced herself that leaving was the only way to build a stable future. She wasn't asking him to excuse it. She was finally telling him the truth. Adrian looked at the woman who had once known every weakness he had. For years, Adrian had imagined this moment. He thought he would feel satisfaction when she finally realized she had been wrong. Instead, he felt tired. Not angry, just tired. Vanessa whispered that she was sorry. Adrian could have reminded her of every cruel comment and every night he had spent wondering whether he was worthless. He said none of it. I hope you're doing well, he told her. She looked at him through tears. That's it? Adrian nodded. What else would you want me to say? Vanessa looked down. For the first time, she understood that his success had not been a weapon waiting to be used against her. It had simply become his life. If you've ever had someone underestimate you, stay with this story. What Adrian did next mattered more than the money he had earned. Before leaving, Adrian noticed a former classmate standing alone near the entrance. The man had lost his business the previous year and was quietly avoiding everyone. Adrian walked over and handed him a card. Call me Monday. The man looked confused. Adrian simply smiled and walked away. Vanessa watched the exchange. She finally understood what had changed. Adrian hadn't become successful because he wanted to prove people wrong. He had become successful because he refused to let failure decide who he would become. Outside the ballroom, the evening air was cool and quiet. Adrian stood beside his car for a moment before getting inside. 8 years earlier, he would have dreamed about returning to that room and making everyone regret what they had said. Tonight, he realized he no longer needed that. His failure had taught him patience. His loneliness had taught him compassion. The people who walked away had forced him to discover that his worth could not depend on who stayed. Vanessa eventually left the ballroom alone, carrying no humiliation from Adrian, only the uncomfortable knowledge that she had once judged a person's future by his worst year. Adrian drove home without checking his phone. For the first time, the reunion didn't feel like a return to the past. It felt like proof that the past no longer owned him. If this story touched you, share it with someone who has ever been judged by their lowest moment. Subscribe for more stories about second chances, quiet success, and people who discover their worth when nobody else can see it. And tell us honestly, if you were Adrian, would you have forgiven Vanessa or would you have made sure she understood exactly how much she had hurt you?